Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our daily online meditation group. This morning, I'm going to talk about something I'm not particularly expert in, but it's looking at a feminist perspective in our practice. And I was going to say, well, I'm looking out at a sort of sea of female presence, but Dave, you've ruined my line on that. So I'm glad you're here, Dave. But oftentimes when I am scheduled to do these talks, it's mostly or all female faces. But sometimes I ask myself how this practice might be different if I were looking out at primarily male faces. There is an obvious feminist influence to our practice here, and I thought it might be helpful to identify what those tendencies are. I started by asking my old friend Chat GPT this question: what would a feminist perspective look like in the world of meditation? And I found the response pretty thorough and insightful. If it's a bit stiff, as you probably know, with opening and closing paragraph with bullet points sandwiched in between. But I'm going to use that response sort of as a starting point. And by the way, I also asked Chat GPT, what would a corresponding masculine perspective look like in the world of meditation? And the contrast was quite something. And I plan to talk about that in my next talk. Now, I realize the difference between genders can be stereotyped and overemphasized, and nobody wants to be pigeonholed by a set of categories. In fact, most of the time I'm quite happily swimming in this particular sea without reference to gender. David McMahon, who recently wrote a book that a lot of us are reading called Rethinking Meditation, urges us to become aware of the cultural influences in our meditation practice. That is, how our experience is shaped, at least in part, by the language, assumptions, life histories, and so on of the teachers and the people that we sit with daily. Knowing this prevents us from thinking that reflective meditation is the only right way to meditate, or that our personal experiences in meditation are somehow a pristine manifestation of consciousness beyond culture and history. And I think this leads to a little more humility about our practice and also to acceptance of other practices. When reading Linda and Nelly's book, Reflective Meditation, the term feministic, they use that as an adjective, arises in several places, but features prominently in section 1 of a section in chapter 1. And here's a quote from that section. What are the feministic values embedded in our practice and code of ethics? Gentleness, receptivity, a relational approach, inclusivity, responsible and transparent use of power, accountable collaboration, and respectful feedback, to name a few. End quote. So this list in Linda and Nelly's book is corroborated basically by the bullet points that Chat GPT gave me about a feminist perspective generally in the context of meditation. So I'm going to go through a bit of a list of some of these aspects. First, an emphasis on gentleness and receptivity. These teachings are really central to our practice here. Be kind to yourself during meditation and be open when possible to whatever arises. I think these qualities are relatively unique to our to the way we do things and arise out of a more feminist point of view. That is, they may arise more naturally among a group of primarily women as possibilities for the way to do meditation, and might be less likely to arise among a group of primarily men. Next, being collaborative, asking for input. Some hierarchy exists in our Sangha, but it's a soft hierarchy, and feedback is always respected. As we'll see, a collaborative spirit is not always present in traditional patriarchal systems. Valuing collaboration is also part of our general culture among certain groups, but especially among women-led systems. Inclusivity. We are very welcoming here. Both Linda and Nelly often say, "Welcome to anyone who is new." The practice is accessible to everyone by design. New people have permission to do their own past practice, while for anyone new to meditation, generally, learning this meditation is relatively easy. Experiential. I often hear Linda say, Sati is like standing near our experience. I've thought about this. Experiential was not on any feminist list that I found, but I think valuing our own experience is more likely to arise from a more feminist approach. Other approaches may seek to bypass our experience, our thoughts, feelings, and sensations during meditation on the way to a more transcendent or lofty experience that might be dictated by certain teachings. Reducing the role of authority, making the path our own, attention to our own experience, taking the traditional teaching with a bit of skepticism until it is seen within our own experience, taking all or most of what is said as provisional. It's true that one aspect of modern Western culture may involve being suspicious of authority, but I think our approach takes that skepticism to a new level. The feminist response to a long history of being subjected to male authority. Another aspect of a feminist approach is healing, emphasis on self-care, taking past trauma seriously, going slowly and staying within our own capacities, recognizing our needs, and saying that, awareness itself is healing. Awareness of boundaries and power dynamics, respecting comfort levels, not invading our space, setting up clear boundaries and anticipating how violations might occur, being transparent about power dynamics that operate within our own Sangha. And finally, the importance of relationships and communication. We place value on relationships within the Sangha, including among meditators, teachers, and and actually a relationship with the teachings. And relationships in our personal lives often arise in our meditation experience, and we value them and the process that may take place. There are extensive opportunities for communication about our experience, as when we have the opportunity to talk about our experiences after meditation. We're not locked into our individual silos. Some other words I often hear that I believe arise out of a more feminist culture: cultivation, befriend, mentoring, listening, and vulnerability. So this list is not exhaustive. You may think of others, but at least for myself, I've made more explicit some of the feminist influences to our way of doing things. Influences which I think make this an effective and resilient practice. Next time, I'll bring up how a masculine culture might design a meditation practice. So thank you for listening today. We'll do our usual 30 minutes of meditation.